What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 15 of my journey building my own AI native search startup. And this is part two of personalization. So, when you're building your own search platform, one of the things that comes to mind is how do you personalize the response? Think of it as the AI response. Think of it like ChatGPT, how it already personalizes what you do, or the questions you asked or the prompts you ask. Now, if you're building a startup like I am, all that functionality is not available to me from ChatGPT. Like, it doesn't let me personalize based on data that the user has in ChatGPT. On top of that, I don't know if I want to depend on ChatGPT. Uh, I want to build a platform that works with multiple models, and I'm independent of choosing the model. In fact, I may choose an open weight model in the future. In fact, I may fine tune my own AI model, which is something I definitely want to do. So that eliminates sort of the relying on third party model providers. And like I said earlier, even if I want, they don't provide that functionality. So if I'm building my own AI search app, I have to build it on my own. I really, really don't have a choice. And believe me, I've looked, I've tried everything. There are some hacks and things you can do. There are memory SAS APIs and things like that, but just didn't satisfy what I wanted to do. So I'm kind of showing you sort of systems or an architecture diagram of how I'm thinking about personalization at a sort of 5,000 feet level. This fits in the larger architecture, and that's essentially what I'm building at the end of the day. Um, Systems for personalization, systems for calling real-time API, systems for putting it all together so that you get one final nice response independently from a lot of the model providers. So this becomes an independent platform. It may not match up necessarily, but it'll surely give them a run for their money when it comes to competition. And more options are always good. This is going to be such an important thing. Knowledge access and just curiosity that people have, and working with companies and products that help you answer some of your curiosities, greatly important. Now, the audience that I'm after is what I call dreamers. People who have a lot of ideas, they're dreaming all the time, and I want to support them in a way that maybe others cannot yet. And one of the things that really strikes me every single time when I say that is a much better user personalization. Better doesn't mean more sophisticated or more intelligent. I don't think I can beat the billion and trillion dollar companies, but more sort of transparent so users can understand, and so that they can better control. And second is giving users access proactively. ChatGPT has introduced briefs. I want to do something much better, and all of this doing with a view that you're not, as a user, dealing with billion-dollar companies and agenda to just grow, and building a product that's really on the user side and helping them become more productive and hence more successful and hence more happy. So the ultimate mission of the company that I'm starting is to just contribute to users' happiness at the end of the day. And knowledge is such an important part. Like, if you know more and if you know things at the right time, hopefully you'll be able to make better decisions, and that will lead to a better quality of life, because at the end of the day our lives dependent on our quality or our decision making to a great extent. And hopefully we'll be able to inspire you as well. Imagine getting up in the morning and just kind of like ChatGPT, you get a brief, but it's more inspirational. Maybe that'll sort of get your ideas revving, and who knows, that may trigger something. So that's the mission, that's the vision. Um, so I want to talk about. Actually, I want to switch this real quick um, to sort of why this is sort of a screenshot, but this sort of goes to why a lot of the infrastructure that I show I have to build myself. You know, why can I can't just use in this case Gemini? This is a screenshot from Gemini. So Gemini supports a nice way to call real-time data using function calls, and even with thinking models, it will do its thinking. And I mentioned this in a previous video. It will do its thinking. It will call your function calls, and so you can have get YouTube or get my private data or get something from database or get from Twitter or X or get something from Reddit or news. It will do that all that for you, and on top of that, it will search Google for you and news. It does a lot of that for you. But the thing you miss is control. And I've tried a lot. It's very hard to maneuver, even with extensive prompting and concrete instructions. The Gemini models, even uh, if they improve that, yet you're still kind of dealing with a little bit of a black box sort of model-based thinking. If I had my own model, I'd be able to fine tune it and reinforce, learn it such that it sort of matches my expectation. But if you're using a third party, any third party, not just Gemini, you're restricted to the model's thinking and during thinking and after when and during the process of constructing the response, it may or may not call your function tool. And it's also very unpredictable. It may call it one time, and the second time around, it may not call it. So that's a deal breaker for me, and it should be a deal breaker. I want consistent responses, and I should be able to describe the responses when users say, hey, I'm not happy with it. I should be able to know why, and I should be able to control it while relying on these unpredicted, super intelligent models. So how do I do that? Right? That's why I have to build some of the routing logic myself. And I'm sure Perplexity does the same. Many other AI platforms would be doing the same. I don't know. I've never worked for Perplexity. I've only worked for Google. And Google has a massive infrastructure, but it's obviously for a previous generation now. Because it was designed for web pages. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, even if the models give extensive control, like tomorrow a Gemini 4 model comes out and you're like, you can tweak it and tinker it, I'm still really dependent on a model company. If you've used Perplexity lets you choose so many different models. Now, I don't know if I quite agree with that kind of approach, because most users don't know what the models are anyways. It's just a nice thing to have, a fun thing to have. Like, it's like, you have all these capabilities, it feels good. I don't know in real life how helpful it is. But for me, the important part of that sort of model picker is that the system works with multiple model providers, including open source. And that is very important. Like, otherwise, if Gemini 4 comes out and gives me all these options, Grok comes out, or ChatGPT comes out, I'm stuck with it. And basically my product is attached to their model, and it'll be so hard. Now you can argue that I can build different sort of adapters for different thinking and all this tweaking and fine tuning, but I don't know. It just a game of cat and mouse, versus just kind of thinking it through and kind of building something of your own gives you so much more capability while using the models. So when you're building your own pipeline, and let me switch actually. You don't have to do everything yourself. You still can use these models at different stages. And the nice thing, and this is something I've mentioned in my previous videos as well, the nice thing is when you have that kind of mindset, you can use different size models. You can use smaller and very small and extra small models for some thinking, and very intelligent, high reasoning models for some other things. And you can kind of be intelligent about it. And my vision is that over time, instead of using heuristics to decide which models, you can use another model, like an AI, a model to decide which model to use. And you can actually do that today by prompting. But my vision is that you'll have sort of an AI overlord model that I would have developed or fine-tuned based off some open weight models or some models that hopefully they can give me access. And then this sort of model is my AI God model, and it is the or master model. And if you think about a master, and then you've got a bunch of workers. The master's job is not to do all the work. The master's job is to figure out what is the request and what's needed, and is something I want to do or not, and how I want to do it, and then delegate to subordinates. And this subordinates can be just like a company, hierarchical. It doesn't have to be a bunch of workers. It can be subordinate managers, and then they delegate to subordinate managers, and then you've got workers, and you have a tree, and all of this is completely model based. These are all models. It's a hierarchy of models who are fine-tuned and reinforcement learned for, their level of the thinking needed at their level. So if I'm a VP, my thinking needs to match a VP. Versus if I'm a software engineering manager, my thinking has to match the manager, right? I cannot think like a VP. It wouldn't work. I've tried, it doesn't work. And a VP thinks like a software engineering manager, like a low-level manager, and that doesn't work because you just get lost in the weeds. And so that's the vision, and that's an interesting vision, because what you end up with is a master or God model, and then a bunch of subordinate models, and these are swappable and self-evolving, and over time everything is sort of automated. So you have a whole bunch of models, but they work in tandem, in harmony, to produce something incredible. This to me is much more viable and much more interesting than a God model, single, massive. I don't like that kind of approach. It needs a lot of energy. Every time you have to go through this massive model, it uses a lot of energy, slow, single point of failure. But my architecture that I described, and I'm not saying it's unique or I came up with it, but that's how I've been thinking, is so much more scalable, reliable, and fun. Honestly, it's a great work, because it's always like you can keep having more and more different type of models, and just becomes part of the overall system. It becomes, the whole system is harmonious at the end. The more models coming in, old models disappearing, and the thing just works, and with some kind of loss function at the end that just improves, based on what the user of the model needs. And in the future, maybe the user is another AI, and we've got truly AI overlords, and we're just workers. And it's going to be a very interesting world. Anyways, that was a little bit of a tangent, but that's why I have to build some of these things. And today I'm talking about personalization, this part 2. Now, the thing I want to highlight is that a bunch of things I'm thinking of considering before coming up with sort of, for a question, what is the context? So I'm considering sort of what's the user's query. I'm considering they may have something in their settings that my preferred language is Spanish, and I live in the US, but yet my preferred language is Spanish. I like concise responses unless I ask for a very large response. Okay, right, sounds good, noted, and then use that. But the implicit data can override, right? So for this query, I want a detailed response, or the query itself leads to, like if it's a research question, it'll lead to a more detailed response. And then you've got something going on in the session as well, the chat session. Although I'm not designing it as a chat app necessarily, but the discussion that's going on, that may not be presented as a discussion, but yet there is some back and forth going on. May also have some interesting tidbits that you can semantically extract. And then all that is used to construct a profile context that basically has this it's like a preference for this request, for this query. And then it goes to a sort of a context, like a service, and the idea is that this is like a central place as this request is processed through the entire pipeline and all the different combinations and permutations. This thing is a singular sort of entity, a service where everything is saved for that request. Again, you have a lot of frameworks that you can use to do this, but I've kind of done my own because it just gives me most control. And then I feed it off. That context is then sent to classifier. I have something called classifier, I have something called a planner, something called synthesis that puts it together. And it's used across the, ideally it should be used across the board. Now this is, a lot of these things I have to do in multiple iterations. I may not have everything, of course, on day one, but my vision is very solid, very robust, and I've talked extensively about this, and this is very much achievable by one person today with AI coding agents that I use, and just my architecture skills. It's very much achievable. That's why I'm on the path. And even if it's not achievable, it's an amazing journey. Won't trade it for the world. So yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about. And if you can imagine the users' preferences and just knowledge and personality and past memories are infused. The idea is it's infused throughout the query processing pipeline at different stages. And by the way, a lot of these boxes could be LLMs. Then hopefully the end result will be something personalized, effective, something good response that hopefully will serve as a good alternative to ChatGPT and Gemini, with the caveat or the advantage that I have the transparency, I have the control, and I can forward that control to the user. Some of the big companies may not let you, but I can, and I want to. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah, I think hopefully this gives you a little bit of a peek at my thinking. These are mostly brain dump sessions I'm doing because who knows, in a week or two I'll forget everything. So yeah, I enjoy it, and some of this is also from my notes that you don't see on the screen. But I enjoy doing this, and I'll keep doing this. Until next time, see ya.